Welcome to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. We are in show number 3, live show number 3 this week. We just keep pumping them out. As long as you guys keep watching, we'll keep making them. Got to adjust the chair there. For those of you that hear a screaming in the background, no, I am not holding prisoners in my house. That is my 10-month-old daughter. My wife and I had a little disconnect on the handoff time here. She knows the show starts at 5, but she's a little late. So my little girl is just waiting for her mother. She'll be taken care of. I promise. No need to call the police, folks. We've got a great week of shows. This is going to be our third one today. Tomorrow, we've got Halston Puchek from the Hoban Law Group, a good friend of mine. Very excited to talk to her. But tomorrow, if you guys are available, 4:20 p.m., we've got our diversity panel anchored by Roz McCarthy of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. You saw Roz on Monday, obviously a wealth of information, and we're really excited about that panel. That's going to be at 4:20 p.m. tomorrow. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend getting into the Zoom meeting for this. It's going to be joinclab.com and just register with the code CLAB100. Okay, my guest today is, I often make the joke that some of these guests come and they decide to slum it with us on the show. Well, this guest today has not only been successful in the world of business, he's been successful in the world of Hollywood and so much more. He is around my age and so much more educated than I am, so much more studied than I am. And I thought I knew a good amount about cannabis and CBD until I started looking at his interviews. And I hopefully by the end of this call we'll be on the same level because I'm just going to pick his brain. But until then, I'm certainly going to look up to him. Please welcome Derek Duchaine, president of Exactus Hemp, and a few other positions we'll get into. Derek, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to come on and speak with you and any opportunity that I have to share what we're doing and how far the industry comes is really exciting for me. So thank you.
Very cool. No, it's an honor to have you and someone who's been involved in so many different parts of the industry. Getting into your story a little bit, I know that your first experience with cannabis was well back when you were a kid. Funny enough, how music kind of triggers memories. And I remember reading a story about how your first experience with cannabis, somebody put on Steve Miller Band, The Joker, and the rest was history. It kind of opened up your mind. But that's not really what brought you into the industry. It is one of those unfortunate stories where somebody in your family had issues and cannabis was the solution to that. Can you give us a little bit of that background? And I think listen, I don't want to say it's incredible because it's certainly not what happened to your family, but the education that you were able to receive and being able to bring this wellness component to so many other people, I think is extremely important.
Thank you. So touching on, what led me to this is probably 2015, 2016. And when it comes to, cannabis use, so, I prefer more, to lean towards this non-psychoactive side. THC and cannabis, I love, but I'm not what you would call, a functional human being when I'm smoking. I can eat, sleep, and laugh, and that's about it. So it was probably 2015, 2016, or probably 2013 when I first tried to help my mother. She has had ovarian cancer, has severe fibromyalgia to the point where you walk by her when she's washing the dishes and she'll collapse because her nervous system is overloaded. And so she had really bad fibromyalgia and MS, and that every couple of years it seems like there's a new something or misdiagnosis, a new diagnosis, or whatever it is. So it's been like that probably the last 16 years of my life, 15 years of my life. And, especially when I was younger, going to different oncologists, specialists, every kind of doctor out there. The first probably 10 years of this, doctors were saying the fibromyalgia isn't real, that it's, all in your head. And so that was obviously very frustrating and hard for her. And, starts being put on a lot of pain pills for the chronic pain that she's in. And obviously those have terrible side effects and are incredibly debilitating. And it's, our medical system in the United States and pharmaceutical system is, prescribe something, chew off your left arm, defeat the right. And it's a really broken system. And I tried to give my mom a cannabis edible to help with the chronic pain and help her get off some of her meds. a THC edible, probably 2012-ish, and she just had a really adverse reaction to it. Just got, she was sick from it. And I guess, maybe 8% of people have a very similar effect. So on the THC side. And so that really, knocked the wind out of my sails for, I know it's an incredible alternative medicine, especially for pain. And a lot of people and a lot of veterans that I've, encountered and speak with, use it for certain things. So I was excited about that. Then she was very turned off by cannabis for a long time. Flash forward to 2016, I went to a cancer pain clinic called Palliative Care Corp down in Orange County at Huntington Beach Hospital, and they had somebody there had recommended to do suppositories, which were high THC, high CBD suppositories, and it's an incredible method to get directly into the bloodstream and to bypass the liver. And that had a tremendous effect on her. Not only was the THC side effects not there on the psychoactive side, we're able to get, if you take 300 milligrams of THC, you're going to be, floored for a weekend, to say the least, right? So if you're going to, even 50 milligrams, that's an incredibly high dosage. And with suppositories, you can get it into the bloodstream and bypass, a lot of these side effects. So that's, within the next couple of months, started to see tremendous results with her MS, started to see her life change exponentially with getting off of her medications, and just starting to become a lot more coherent as a human being. And, I was blown away that how come, the last 15, 16 years of doctor's appointments, I'd left I'd kind of uprooted what I was doing and went back to take care of my mom once it got to a certain point. And how is it that half of my life I've been at doctor's appointments and specialists and oncologists, and cannabis was never a part of the conversation? And seeing firsthand how something that, then it was, was pretty expensive, but compared to what, doctors' offices are billing insurance companies and pharmacies, it's fairly, relatively affordable and accessible, much more accessible. But obviously insurance isn't covering it, and it was never a part of the conversation. So that time, the whole trajectory of my life changed. I wanted to explore, more about the different cannabinoids, their effects on our bodies, what the endocannabinoid system is, and all of the different incredible things that all these different cannabinoids can do for us. So I started a company called Healing Ventures, which at the time was initially going to be a product development and marketing company for my targets for the typical big CPG companies like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, et cetera. And I would go to the big supply side and like the big product development, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's CPG. I'd go to all the big expos and meet with all these companies. And this was 2016, so it was really, really early on for this space for the hemp stuff. And everybody's telling me to get lost. And the only people that would talk to me is the local cannabis companies in California. And it's because they understood the benefits somewhat of CBD. They understood, that they would be able to market it and sell it over state lines, outside of the current, state restrictions for the marijuana side, if it was hemp extracted, et cetera. The first couple of brands that we did went from 0 to $1 million in revenue in the first 90 days. And, it was just off to the races. And wow. Supply chain became the real issue. And this was just launching with tinctures and soft gels, right? This was back when nobody was doing it. And then supply chain became the real issue. And I worked with, the biggest one in Denver, the biggest one in Kentucky, and a lot of the, early on players. And these guys, the testing was so far off then, the consistency was so far off then, whether it's, the genetics, or the whole country runs out of biomass, or a machine breaks and you have 2 weeks to 2 months downtime, or, all the headaches that come on manufacturing and supply chain that I wish, if I knew what I was going to get into then, I probably would have ran for the hills. But that led me to, becoming, the biggest customers of these companies, which led me to another one, which led me to another one. because of, a multitude of QC and supply chain issues. Then that led me to a company called EcoX at the time, which was primarily equipment and manufacturing, processing equipment for the cannabis industry. And we rebranded them to EcoGen Labs. We did about a little over 80 million last year in revenue. And then, they're a big customer of theirs and consulting for them. And then end of 2018, they offered me a partnership role to come join the company. And obviously 2018, everything changed for this industry, for the hemp industry. The Farm Bill passed, and then everybody that was telling me to get lost and no, suddenly all wanted to have a conversation and start diving into product development and working with their internal teams and figuring out which ingredients and which products are going to be best for, and which delivery systems, et cetera, are going to be best for the goals that they're trying to achieve. So it went from, kind of operating in the shadows on the hemp side, and then after the 2018 Farm Bill to it, becoming an agricultural commodity. And still, there's still a lot of internal policies that need to catch up on the banking side, on, payment processing side, on marketing. But, it really opened the floodgates for the industry. And then 2019 spent, probably 300 plus days on the road. To every pharmaceutical, tobacco, cosmetics, pets, food and beverage, every single one of these conventions or expos globally, turned into the CBD show. So that was very fortunate, for us, and I was fortunate to go to all of these things and meet a bunch of incredible people and really help push the industry forward. So that's kind of what brought me to where I'm at today, which is Exactus. And we are supply chain management and finished goods, supplying and manufacturing, and just trying to do everything I can with the best people that I can to keep the ball moving forward. We never thought the industry would blow up this fast, and it has, and we're just gonna keep going forward.
Dude, that's a great story. And I mean, the one trend I noticed with you is that you don't chase after money per se, but you chase after the things that you're passionate about, right? And again, I've done my homework on you, and what brought you to Hollywood and the work that you did there was, if I'm correct, the movie Almost Famous. Although you never became a music critic, you got involved with Hollywood, and you did stunt work and some other stuff. But then after helping your mom and getting that education, I'm very intrigued with the entrepreneurial side of you with Healing Ventures, because I'm going to break down how I think your thought process went is, okay, I really want to pursue this. I want to put this good out in the world. What do I have? Well, I have this education on how these cannabinoids can help people. How can I do this without a ton of overhead? Well, it almost sounds like you set up more of a consulting business. Like, hey, Procter & Gamble, everybody else, if you want to get into this space, I'm going to be the guy to help you get there, right? I'm going to help you educate people. I'm going to help you find the best supply and everything else. I mean, it's a genius move. And then one opportunity led you to another opportunity that would give you a chance to expand upon it. And now all the way at Exactus, with every opportunity that you've had along the way, you now have an expertise all along the supply chain, and you're in an amazing position to just really run after the industry. I mean, am I kind of on track with what your thought process was along this journey?
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty spot on. And actually, initially, and I haven't even thought about this since I started. But and then initially, I just knew that I had, had a total life trajectory change and epiphany once I saw what happened with my mom. And Healing Ventures initially was like, I just wanted to go and speak at conference. Like, one of the first things I did was speak in front of about, I think it was like 800 members at the VA, and I was in South Carolina. And just being able to be there and speak and educate people on cannabinoids and get, talk to a lot of them very personally about, the stigmas that were attached to it, and how, the opioid crisis, hurt the veterans probably more than any other sector, and has. And so helping them understand, what the endocannabinoid system is and how CBD can help them. And initially it was I just wanted to educate people and use Healing Ventures as like a digital kind of platform and speaking and education. And then that kind of led to another thing and another thing. And then product development and supply chain and marketing all kind of intertwined. But yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. And yeah, I haven't even thought about that since,
Well, that's part of the reason that we do this show is to get you to look back on where you've come from, right, man? And I mean, in 4 short years, you've gone from somebody who just had a phenomenal education in the endocannabinoid system and the how I can't even imagine 113 different cannabinoids, and now look at everything that you're doing along the supply chain. And I commend you because you're doing it. Listen, when you said the 2018 Farm Bill changed this industry, it changed it for better and worse. It made it legal to do the things that you're doing, but there was also a ton of not great people who came into this industry and put bad product on the shelf. So now when you're in these meetings with everybody else, you've got all these people who I would come in and listen, people can come after me all they want, but they were just really good digital marketers and they used CBD as their medium, and that's what they were making money off of, but they were putting not the best product out there, right? And as someone who is a big advocate for the decreasing the stigma in this industry, whether it's on the cannabis side or the CBD side, and exposing the wellness portion of it, I didn't like that because we were given an opportunity as cannabis advocates and as cannabis people who are educated on the plant to put something out there to say, hey, world, this is something, it's not going to get you high. You're going to get the wellness benefits of the cannabis plant. We want you to try it. And if your first experience is some garbage New York bodega CBD, that's not a good first impression for us. So, talk to me about that point in time where all of a sudden, you're one of the few people who are doing it. And at that point, you're doing it the right way. Like you said, you couldn't find a good supply. So you had to go and search, and you finally found someone and you became their biggest partner. And now you're doing everything the right way. And next thing you know, you go into the local gas station and you've got a bottle that just says CBD on it. How do you continue to put your head down and do things the right way while seeing all these other entrants flooding the market?
Well, it's definitely not the most, financially rewarding when you're keeping it as clear as possible and transparent as possible. But at the end of the day, like you said, if we're not providing a product that is the absolute best that we can to our knowledge, in the best delivery system and traceability, and we're not doing what our part to standardize the industry, with the lack of regulations on especially the hemp side, we have to be the consumer and the manufacturer, you have to be very careful about where that hemp is coming from. And we saw, post, the Farm Bill, you're right. It was, very good and very bad in a lot of ways. So it attracted, tons of investment capital, tons of MLM companies, that are, for better or worse, garbage. You're not seeing like the big, you're not seeing the Herbalife and yet you're not seeing, the people that really care about supply chain and really care where it's coming from. You're seeing, people, you're seeing like the knife people and the vacuum, which are all great people, but, it's dollar signs as opposed to, helping people. And, with that, you see, a ton of synthetic product that was flooding the market, which isn't stable. And we saw several instances of people actually being hospitalized from getting synthetic, lab made CBD. And I'm sure that, things were probably specific in those lots and batches, but obviously, that those are things that happened. And then foreign products. So, with the demand that skyrocketed so much, there wasn't really now the supply's caught up domestically, but then not so much. And people were buying it from, all over the world, in India, China, now South America. And, that's remarkable. But the issue is that hemp is it's like a sponge, right? So if there's, say if it's, here in Southern California, and there's a fire that happens up the street, that crop is going to be ruined because it's absorbing everything and all the chemicals in the air. If this soil was, old ag soil, or if it's, near manufacturing, et cetera, and is or was at one point. Hemp is incredible for like phytoremediation and remediates and cleans out the soil. But with that, you're getting all the nasty stuff in the plant. And if you're testing the plant and the biomass, typically you're not going to see too much of these like heavy metals or toxins or pesticides. But when we're processing it, and by then, a lot of people have bought the biomass and then, they're sending over for processing, but everything spikes, right? Whether it's the, THC levels to the pesticides to whatever is in it. And, at that point, a lot of companies were just taking product that was very cheap coming from these very polluted areas and either just buying it off of a potency test and not getting, a full panel done on it, or they would, get it and test it, and it would test hot or test heavy for pesticides and lead and mercury, et cetera. And, that's very, very dangerous, right? And unfortunately, we saw so much of that last year. I think this year it's gotten better. Now there's a lot more, there's a couple of like real people doing real business here domestically, and a lot more transparency in the industry. There's still a lot of that going on, but I think now you can just Google hemp manufacturer, look, ask 3 people that are doing it and buying it, and you can find credible sources. And most of these products aren't made by the brands that are selling them. That's the sticker they put on it. Most of these are coming from large manufacturing, co-packing, white label facilities, and a lot of these facilities do have pretty good intake processes where now they're only accepting certain product that hits certain specs, et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen it start to get better. Hopefully it'll stay on this track, and the education is probably the most important thing, that consumers demand transparency in their supply chain, and they understand what they're taking. Because it's like, if I go and buy I take a lot of supplements, right? If I go buy a vitamin off of Amazon, if I go buy a CBD, great example, if I buy CBD off of Amazon, technically they're supposed to put hemp extract and not CBD. Well, hemp extract can mean anything, right? That can mean hemp seed oil, which is great. It's like fatty omega-3s and fatty acids and all of that, but it's not the benefits of CBD. And you don't know where a lot of these are coming from, and you don't know if there's even any CBD in it. I mean, every day you see different news reports where a news reporter will go and buy 10 products from off the shelf at wherever, or buy them online, and each one of those they go and test them, and a couple of them will test with heavy metals and lead, like 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, I think, and then the other 7 out of 10 will have below or are not accurate levels of the cannabinoids that are in it. I think only 1 or 2 on average of like a lot of these tests that the reporters are doing come out, and say what they actually are. So, yeah.
I hope people are out there, they understand when you get into this business, like, this isn't like starting any other business. It's not like starting a supplement company. So I don't want to get political, but there are people out here that don't want to see the cannabis industry succeed. They're gonna come after you, and if you're not putting a quality product out there, you're gonna ruin it for everybody. And even if you're a good digital marketer and you're putting crap out there, I mean, it's a bad look on the industry as a whole. It's not. The cannabis industry isn't a given yet. It's not legal in every state. Yes, the Farm Bill helped us with CBD and everything else, but this can go away just as easily as it came, folks. So, it makes me happy to see folks like you fighting for that transparency along the supply chain. Now, a big topic on the show that we talk about here is vertical integration. And the reason that we talk about it so much is because in the state of Florida, from a medical marijuana standpoint, which is outside of what you do, they forced vertical integration. And because of that, they've restricted the barrier of entry. They made the barrier of entry very high for the average person to get into medical marijuana here. Now, on the hemp side, that has not happened. I talk very much against vertical integration in that specific scenario, but I know you're a big proponent of it. We had a gentleman, Derek Thomas from Veritas Farms, on here before. He's a big fan of vertical integration. I definitely see the advantages of a company working towards vertical integration after they're able to kind of grow and bootstrap it and bring in money and then take on more and more of their operations. How important to you do you think it is for a hemp company that to ensure that they're putting the highest quality product out there to be vertically integrated?
Todd, that's an excellent question. And I think I lean, at the beginning, like I said, 2016, 2017, 2018, you have to be vertically integrated, right? And at least on the hemp space, like you couldn't get consistent quality genetics. You couldn't get, you can rely on your processors. You couldn't rely on pretty much any part of the supply chain unless you're doing it yourself. Now, the industry is standardized significantly and it's evolved significantly. And my stance on that has shifted. I think that there isn't, do what you do best, whether it's on the marketing and branding side, whether it's building the equipment, building the machines, whether it's operating the grows, do what you do best and find incredible partners that do what they do best, and everybody works together. And it's, Coca-Cola is not making, they're not making their sugar, right? And
Yeah.
And it's something where I think, we, in the companies that I was with, we got into vertical integration because it was a necessity, not because we wanted to. You look at other industries,
Yeah.
Vertical integration, isn't there on a lot of them, and it doesn't make sense financially for as a business owner to be vertically integrated, right? And when you have other people out there that are doing that one thing and doing it, exponentially better than you are at a lower cost and at a better product or a better output. So I think that on the hemp side, I wouldn't, I think that you find the right partners and you vet them very heavily. You do a lot of business with them and figure out what part of the supply chain, is most exciting for you and the most expertise and where you could bring the most value. On the, Florida side, I like the Curaleaf shirt, by the way. I love the team. They're like family. Yeah, great company, great leadership, great infrastructure, and that's pretty rare, in this industry. A lot of companies will have one or the other. They'll have great infrastructure, no leadership, or great leadership and no infrastructure. And Curaleaf is a very special company that's got both. But the on the Florida barriers to entry, and even I think most of these states where, California changed. I think initially it had to be vertically integrated as well, but now I have friends with cannabis brands here that they either had manufacturing issues or had whatever part of the supply chain, and they're just getting legs up and running for companies that were doing millions of dollars a month. To be able to get it back to running again is by finding the right manufacturing partner, the right packaging partner, the right distribution partner, et cetera. And if you're, if you have to go and do all of that on your own, it's going to take you forever to scale. It's going to take you forever to, you're going to invest all of your capital into the infrastructure for, for the grow, right? And then for the shop, and then for the distribution, and then, all of those things in between that you're going to have to start very small on each one of those for most of these companies, right? And then in order to expand, you're probably going to have to, get new facilities, new teams, and it's just that it's not encouraging for, for the team or for the business owner. And it's not set up really for people that are coming in to win, right? Unless you're heavily backed and VC funded or whatever the financial situation is. But for people that, want to get into this space, then, and unless you've got, like, the barrier to entry shouldn't be, you need, a couple $1 million pay to play, right? Like, that just shouldn't be like with what we're doing, right? We're trying to make the world a better place, and we're trying to bring, an alternative medicine to markets at scale. And, whether it's on the rec side or, on the medicinal side, it's an incredible alternative to alcohol and to pharmaceuticals, and on a physiological and mental health stance. And I think that vertical integration was a necessity a couple of years ago. Now I couldn't, I've leaned completely in the opposite direction. I agree with you, wholeheartedly. And it shouldn't be a barrier to entry, right? Like that should not be, what it is, and that's got to be, very, very tasking for entrepreneurs, looking to start in the Florida market.
Yeah, it's, the longer I get into the space, the more I open my eyes into what the holistic view of the market's going to be. And, we talk about this a lot too, that everybody who's in this industry is mostly in it because they're passionate. And I would love that barrier to entry to be lower so these passionate people can come in and just make waves in the industry. I mean, someone like yourself, you had a massive passion for it, and look how far you've come in 4 years. If you weren't that passionate, you wouldn't be here, right? You wouldn't be here 4 years later. You probably still only be with the first venture because it would have been a job to you, not a mission. So,
Yeah.
that's intriguing to me. And then I think when we fast forward and we look at the future, what the entire cannabis market's going to look like, it's not going to be a cannabis industry to me anymore, because cannabis is going to be a commodity that is just in every other industry. But we're going to have the recreational side of it. And I think that's going to be a very small part. A bigger part of that is going to be the wellness side of it. And that starts with CBD. And now, I'm really curious, of the 113 cannabinoids, what other ones that we need to be focusing on, because I think most people, they know THC, they know CBD, maybe they know a few others that they can pick out because they've seen it on a menu, CBN, CBG, THCA, Delta 8, Delta 9. That's as far as I'm going. I don't even know if Delta 8 and Delta 9 are part of it. I'm just assuming based on, I'm going to thank Truly for having it on their menu, but that's as far as I can go. So if I count on my hands, that's maybe, I've still got 107 or 106 left that I have no clue about. And we have all these things that we need to study. So wellness is going to be the next biggest component. And then the topic after I ask you about those cannabinoids is going to be industrial hemp, which I believe will be the biggest part of this industry and really should be a game changer for this country if we do it the right way. And now I'm itching to talk about that. But let's go back to the 113 cannabinoids. Where do you see a lot of the focus needs to be outside of your traditional THC and CBD? And, I'm going to get really sciencey here. Or do they do the same things when we're isolating them versus this whole entourage effect that we're being talked about? And I know you're not a scientist or a doctor, so if you don't know, that's fine. But to the best of your knowledge would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that, I surround myself with people that are much smarter than me, as much as I can.
And that's why I have this show, so I can just get much smarter than people to educate me. So
yeah. And a lot of, I think I was in Berlin last year, the year before, and Dr. Wachtel from a charity called Cannabis. Cannabis is hands down one of the coolest, greatest, most amazing charities out there, and fortunate to work with them. So they take infants with brain cancer, and if you get accepted into their program, they take your infant baby child that has brain cancer and brain tumors, and they treat them for free, and it's remarkable. And they've been doing this for a long time. And I was fortunate enough to meet with Tracy and to meet with their team and seeing how like an NK cell, a cancer cell, right, that it's replicating, and you see how we can identify a handful of cannabinoids, right? And you take a full spectrum product or a full cannabis extract product and you inject it to one of these cells, and you'll see a lot of these CBD, for example, CBD bypass it, right? And you'll see these lesser knowns and these deltas and stuff that we were unable to identify latch onto the NK cell and latch onto it and start going to town on it. So to answer one part of the question is, do I think the isolated cannabinoids are the best products? Depends on what you're going for, right? It depends if it's a very specifically targeted thing. I think that there's a lot that we don't know about the plant. There's a lot that we don't know about our endocannabinoid system. And really, like, people come to me all the time and they say, I take CBD because I take marijuana because it helped me with this. But it helped me with my insomnia, with my my cancer, my chronic pain, my my mood, a million different things, right? My friend had a tooth pulled and she was sick from the Vicodin, and I put CBD on it, and that helped the inflammation go away and helped the pain go away. And people tell me all these different things, and I tell them CBD doesn't do any of that. It does none of that. So stop saying CBD does all these things, because it doesn't. What CBD does, to understand that, you have to really understand your endocannabinoid system. And what CBD does, it's a widespread neuromodulatory system that affects our reproductive system, our endocrine, our brain tissues. It's like this very complex cell signaling system that is identified to help our body kind of come back to homeostasis, right? So we're still trying to understand, what the ECS and endocannabinoid system really can do. But, what we do know so far is that it plays a significant role in our sleep, our mood, our pain receptors, our appetite, our memory, reproduction, fertility, and in this endocannabinoid system exists in your body, whether you use cannabis or not. So, people ask me, why do I take CBD? Why do I take cannabinoids? And it's like, why do you take vitamin C? Because you're vitamin C deficient. Yeah. We take our our CBD to replenish our different cannabinoids, THC, CBN, etc. We take them to replenish our endocannabinoid system, and that helps our body get back to homeostasis, right? And that so I say that CBD or THC doesn't do any of these healing things, right? Because A, you legally can't say that. Thank you, FDA. And B, because it doesn't. But we do know that it affects our endocannabinoid system, and that affects, like I said, chronic pain, learning, memory, motor control, metabolism, tons of different things. So on the different cannabinoids, right? THC has been, the hero for over 100 years. Probably 1,000, right? Everybody knows that CBD. I didn't even discover it till 4 years ago, and when I did, nobody I knew, and I talk a lot, and I talked to a lot of people, and nobody had ever heard of CBD, and a lot of people that I would say, try to turn on to, especially veterans, and especially people like my family. They were very anti-cannabis, because it's such a terrible, devil's lettuce. It was really difficult getting people to try another cannabinoid, and it was an industry that blew up not off of marketing, right? Like, we couldn't run Instagram ads, we couldn't run Facebook ads, we couldn't run Google ads, we couldn't buy Super Bowl ads. It's an industry that grew up off of consumer results. It's an industry that blew up because somebody took it for something and it helped them, and they told 5 of their friends and they took it and it helped them, and it just, right? And that's so phenomenal. And that's all, and I still deal with people, not so much, now as I did then, but it's snake oil. Oh, show me the studies. Oh, it's not real. Yada, especially in the beginning, like all my friends, like, why don't you go start a marijuana company? Why don't you, like, what are you doing messing with hemp and CBD? It's a joke. Like, do you want your vegan burger? Or do you want In-N-Out? Like, people are going to go for In-N-Out, right? So, there was a lot of that in the beginning. And I think now CBD is, incredibly powerful for, as an anti-inflammatory. Obviously Epidiolex was, huge for epilepsy and for preventing seizures. And anybody that's seen that firsthand, I'm sorry that you have to see the seizures firsthand, but seeing how quickly it reacts to the body is it's so powerful and so magical, and it's incredible. But I don't think that CBD is the best, or I think it's opened a lot of gateways and a lot of doors and tons of consumer education, and gotten people away from just seeing cannabis as a psychoactive and as a drug, and seeing cannabis as a medicine. So I think it's done phenomenal things for the plant and for the industry as a whole. But as far as being the most beneficial cannabinoid, I don't know, and I can't dive in too much because I don't know what I legally can and can't say. But CBC for skincare, watch out. It's for what it's doing for skincare is remarkable, specifically for scars. So I think that's
very cool.
I think that's going to be, the next big thing for skincare. And obviously, CBD and CBG are great for skincare because of their anti-inflammatory properties. CBN and what we're seeing just from the research and studies and the products that are out there, the sleeping pill industry is, multi-billion dollars, and a lot of people die from going out and accidentally. What's the difference between life and death between a lot of these sleeping pills and painkillers? It's, oh, this one's not working, let me take another one, and then they never wake up, right? And that's
Yeah.
very, very scary. And it's a massive industry. And CBN and the way that it works in our body is, we're seeing a lot of interesting studies and a lot of promising results. Obviously, this is full FDA disclosure. I'm not making any claims. We're just researching these different cannabinoids and seeing very interesting things. CBG, I think is really going to hit the market this year pretty significantly. CBG affects more gut health, and a lot of our mental health is down here in our gut. And a lot of people don't understand, how important our gut is and what we eat, and how that can affect, things like severe ADD. Thank you for that. And for, how it affects just a lot of different mental things. And CBG does a lot for our microbiome and for our guts. And is also another, incredible anti-inflammatory. So I think, CBL is another, and there's a lot of them out there, and there's only 6, 7, like CBDV, I think is going to be, and THCV on a medical standpoint is remarkable. I don't know what I can legally say about that, but I've seen people with crazy nerve damage and injuries get heavily treated with THCV on those spots and have, insane results. So I think that this industry is at its, extreme infancy. People come to me all the time and, I think that the, CBD market and hemp market, it's oversaturated, and how all these companies doing this and that. I'm like, stop making shitty CBD companies, right? Stop coming out with, here's my tincture, here's my soft gel. Why won't you buy my product? I'm the best. I'm a farmer. I'm a mom and pop shop. I have good intention. I have goodwill, but I don't understand why it's not taking off. And it's because, like, stop building cannabis brands and stop building CBD brands. Build a brand, right? Because, like you said, I see CBD and cannabinoids because of how effective they've been historically throughout, mankind's documentation of it. I mean, if you look at old Sears Roebuck's catalogs, like in, early 1900s, you're going to see all these different products with cannabis leaves on them, right? And post World War I, that all changed. But yeah, I think that you're going to walk into a CBD, or like you're going to walk into a store and it's, now you'll see an end cap with CBD products, but the reality is, it's going to be in everything. It's going to be in our bread. It's going to be in our snacks. It's going to be in our skincare products. It's going to be, as popular as sugar. And that's what I'm hoping for. And it's not because, that's where the industry's, it's because it's effective, right?
Yeah.
And it's so attainable, and it's so easy to grow and accessible. And it's not, the barriers to entry are so slim on a global scale. And you see, outside of the health benefits, right? And we've, like I said, we're scratching the surface with different cannabinoids, but outside of the health benefits, when you look at hemp, so we've got our cannabis, you've got 100 plus cannabinoids. We've only effectively been able to extract and bring them, commercially at scale, really at scale, maybe 6 of them, and we've identified.
Explains the 6 that I know. Get it?
Yeah. and identified, dozens of others, but like, as far as, research and R&D and what they do, and until, the genetics continue to improve, until technologies and extraction continues to improve, then, we've got a long ways to go. And so that's, one piece of what the cannabis industry is, right? One very small piece of what the cannabis industry is. If you look at China, for example, right? China's light years ahead of us when it comes to manufacturing. And when they had a big textile reform a couple of years ago, probably a little bit more than a couple of years ago now, they invested heavily in a big hemp program. And all of, and that hemp there isn't, this is for textiles, for fibers, for packaging, for biofuels, bioplastics, and that, they've been growing and, a significant amount of hemp and cannabis for these things, and not even focusing on the medical components and medical aspects, because the textile purposes, and that those industries and sectors far outweigh, what's what they're projecting on the medical side. So I think this industry is very much so at its infancy. I mean, look at our founding fathers, right? Look at Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Right? They all had hemp farms, and now we're getting back to it being a cash crop for the United States, and I think globally. Like, what I'm excited about is to be able to walk into a store, in the near future, and you're picking up sunscreen or picking up, a snack, and it's not sunscreen with CBD or energy drink with CBD. It's just your sunscreen or just your or just a gummy, and then on the back of it, in size 4 font, seeing CBDV or cannabidiol or CBG or whatever it is, because it's going to be that popular and that effective. So I know we're jumping all over the place here, but when you're creating a brand, create 1 to 3 SKUs, do something very well, then expand upon it and create a brand. Don't create just a CBD or cannabis product, because as we're leaning more towards standardization and more towards mass adoption of these products, there's not going to be, I think the CBD and cannabis markets those brands are going to fizzle out. And know your customers, know who you're targeting, and know the problems that you solve and then what you fix. And once you have to look at it, a couple of years from now or months from now, once everything's completely opened up legally, how that's going to look. And CBD or cannabinoids are a romanticized raw ingredient, right? And we love them and we're passionate about them, but once they become just that, what's your company?
Yeah. Dude, yeah. I mean, listen, you're jumping all over the place, but I love everything that you're saying because it's so true, right? When we talk about the cannabis industry, when I talk about the cannabis industry on this show, that it involves all of that. It's not just the marijuana industry. Listen, the marijuana industry is kind of, I don't know how much further the actual recreational adult use marijuana industry outside of higher THC counts and different forms of delivery. I don't know how much more that's going to mature. That's been around in that form for a very long time. And we just made it legal and safer and easier to more accessible, right? What you're saying about, all these different cannabinoids just being native ingredients to these different products is where this industry, I believe, is going to go. That's going to be the next biggest component. And then you touched on this, and I'm glad you didn't go too far into it because I just wanted to expand upon it. This is where I'm most interested right now is the industrial side of it, is the textiles, the plastic replacements, the concrete replacements, sustainable packaging, all this great stuff, so it's funny. I kind of made this joke in my head that, you have a background in Hollywood, and at some point Hollywood ran out of ideas and they decided to just start making sequels. Well, that's where America is right now. We've run out of good business ideas. So we're going back to 1910s, 1920s and reigniting those business.
More coal factories. Yeah.
Exactly. No, but we were right on the verge. And so it's funny. I listened to the Rogan podcast with Rob Lowe, and they had this conversation. I actually listened to it the day after Derek Thomas from Veritas and Veritas Farms and I had the conversation. He educated me on it, that it was around 1918, 1920 when William Randolph Hearst was threatened by the hemp industry, and hemp was supposed to be this new $1 billion crop. They came out with the decorticator, which actually made it cost productive to produce hemp. You didn't have to create the strands by hand anymore. I'm probably butchering half of this, but essentially he started the Reefer Madness campaign to go after the hemp industry because of his investments in cotton and paper and all that other things. And he was about to lose a lot of money. And then on top of that, they used it to go after minorities and everything else. But it was this whole thing that was really just a very powerful businessman that was demonizing something because it threatened his business interests. And now all of a sudden, 100 years later, we're like, well, that guy was an idiot, right? And this is, I mean, he was a good business person, but he's an idiot because he demonized something that could have been a massive future for our country if we would have never put it on prohibition. And now we're picking up in 2018 where we left off in 1918, I think ish, don't quote me on that. And we have this beautiful industry that could reignite our country, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're printing money to support ourselves. We're only at the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately, of all the things that are going to happen to us. But we have this new product that can spark an entire industry and spark jobs around agriculture and logistics and retail and research and development and all these great things. It can be a new tax revenue stream, and it's sustainable. It's so interesting to me, and I barely know anything about it. I often make the joke on this show that I think if one company could just get the straw account for Starbucks and make them hemp straws so we can get rid of those pain in the ass paper straws, that's $1 billion business in itself right there. So, how focused are you guys on that level? Then what I see the future in the largest part of this industry, which is the sustainable packaging, the plastic replacements, and just the industrial side of hemp.
Absolutely. And Todd, you're spot on with so much of this. And I've seen it lean more towards this on the textile and industrial side for, the last few years. And almost weekly, I get the opportunity to talk to companies that are either entering the space or, massive global companies that are doing the R&D that are coming. It's like in the marijuana side, right? 15 years ago, the trim was, that was trash, right? The trim was just thrown out. And now that's the gold, right? And for us, the stalks is like, that's, let's throw it in the corner, get rid of it, burn it. And now, actually last year, I had the opportunity to speak at a Trans Tech conference in San Francisco. And I met with a company that was looking for an obscene amount of hemp stalks. And I'm like, I can give you that, our waste material. What's up? What do we need this for? And we had recently discovered before this that we were extracting graphene, and we're sending it out to a bunch of different labs trying to figure out what this is that we just sliced and diced out of it, and we found out it's graphene, and that changes everything. Right now we're in the energy sector, now we're in the building sector, and I met this company that was looking for hemp stalks for that purpose, to extract graphene to 3D print boats. And so that was my first real. There's only so much time and so much bandwidth and you have to focus on what and what you can do. And after meeting with him, I've made it my mission to at least once a week be in touch or reach out to companies that are making hempcrete, to companies that are making different products along with different parts of the plants, and whether it's biofuels, bioplastics. It's funny that you mentioned the straws for Starbucks. I talked to a company that's working on, that's got a bid in for McDonald's for making the straws. So just seeing that one thing alone, right, is such a game changer for what it can do on a socioeconomic level, what it can do on a sustainable level, and just that one product. But if you look at hemp for building materials and bioplastics, it wasn't the first Henry Ford's first car, wasn't that was hemp plastics. And
I think that the fenders were made of hemp, if I recall correctly. I mean, all this is just stuff I've heard that I'm trying to repurpose. But
I'm gonna pull it back to you. But it's remarkable on so many different industries and so many different sectors, and it grows. What you said before, it was the cotton, the lumber, and these industries, lobbying against cannabis in the early 1900s. And if you look at where it's at today, it's even, the FDA, let's be honest, who funds the FDA, right? It's the pharmaceutical companies, and who's lobbying against cannabis, right? Who's lobbying against marijuana and CBD, THC, et cetera, is those companies. And, you're seeing today, it's not just, Bob and Joe's CBD company over here, right? Now you have, the food and beverage industry, the tobacco industry, the cosmetics industry, all these different companies and industries and sectors that are now lobbying for and very pro cannabis and pro marijuana. And like I said, similar to the cannabinoid and terpene and alkaloids and all of those pharmacological benefits from the plants, we're just scratching the surface when it comes to textiles. And there's been a legal setback for the last 100 years, and obviously a social stigma for companies to do this at scale. China has been very much so, incorporating, and even in Europe, they've been growing hemp fiber, hemp, the genetics over there for their CBD sucks. Like they get it all from here. But on the hemp that they are growing is remarkable for fibers and for textile uses. And that is, that's the future, right? And you look at how much damage we've done to our planet and to our environment and to our soil, our air, the animals, the biodiversity of this planet in such a short period of time. And look at, the industries that are causing that, the deforestation, the oil industry, plastics, and all of these things that, hemp grows and cannabis grows 5 times faster, I think, than trees and puts off more oxygen. And when you're looking at hemp toilet paper, cannabis toilet paper, cannabis, just cannabis everything. And I think that we're, very much so at the beginning of these different sectors, and it's exciting. It's incredibly exciting for the opportunities that are out there for, each one of these different pieces, and to be an early mover in the sector. If I'm a construction company and I'm, starting with hempcrete or if I'm, a packaging company, and the amount of plastics, that for say I'm doing packaging for restaurants, and the amount of plastics that's used every day, and I, started, making that with hemp. So I think there's still a lot of capital that needs to be thrown at these industries and a lot more people involved. But and something I've been looking at as well recently is fungi, and looking at very similar medicinal aspects and very similar textile aspects, right? And between cannabis and fungi, like there's not much that we can't do, and lies a ton of on a sustainable and a medicinal standpoint. It's just mind-blowing that we've come so far as a civilization, and this isn't as nearly as evolved as where it should be, and that we're still making active choices to consume products and to take things and to actively spend our money supporting industries for things that are destroying our planet for our kids, our future generations to come. And so that's where we're at.
Dude, it's also exciting. And while we have guys like Elon Musk trying to get us up to Mars, you're still focused on this planet and innovating. And funny enough, looking to the past to help innovate by taking these natural solutions and just making them into things that we need every day. That the hemp thing is so exciting. And I'm sure people think that we're crazy when we say that it can make almost anything. But, when you look at the fibers and the way that you can work that plant, you really can. And it could be something that can revolutionize everything we're doing. I won't even touch the fungi thing because I am not even the least a bit educated in it, but I'm really excited. I'm glad that you're doing a lot of this work, and I think it's extremely important. I'm glad I get to showcase it. And so, at Exactus, to bring it all back to what you guys are doing, you guys are right at the beginning of the supply chain, making sure that people have proper genetics and proper seeds and the right supplies to get going. I'm sure it's more so than just that, but tell us a little bit more about the business, because we're getting to the top of the hour and I want to make sure people know what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now our core focus is, like you said, without the right seed, the right genetics, you have nothing, right? So to be the industry leading supplier for genetics, and even if it's not ours, we know it's the best out there, and depending on what region you're in and whether different parts of the globe, what strains are going to grow better, and really providing that expertise and kind of consults for farms. We see farms year over year lose money due to very avoidable mistakes. So, and also it's a trust factor, right? So if I'm buying a raw ingredient, or I'm buying an isolate or a distillate for my brand or my company or my manufacturing, you test it a week later, you know what you're getting. With seeds or genetics, it's not that. It's a trust buy. Even if you have a feminization and germination reports, you're not getting it on a large scale. You get 100 seeds, 1,000 seeds. You're planting, hundreds of acres or millions of seeds. Those numbers are going to be very skewed. So, having the right source of genetics, and also not only on the farming side, investing in your genetics, you look at the other 2/3 of the equation, invest in your drying and your storing, because we're seeing millions and millions and millions of dollars lost from these farmers that didn't make those or plan, to have it stored or where to dry it or how to, do it correctly, nuking it from 15% material down to 5% material on accident. And then it gets moldy if it's not stored correctly. So, on the farming piece, consulting and supplying the right stuff for that. On the ingredients, CBC, CBN, CBG, CBD, being the lowest cost and highest quality supplier, globally for these ingredients, and really focusing on being the backbone and support of this industry. Obviously, as the industry evolves, and there's things that we're looking at that we're excited about. There's things that I'm looking at that I'm very excited about. But I think we need to focus on what we can do and what we can do very well. And as our bandwidth increases and our team increases, then expanding out and exploring these other things. But I'm a very firm believer in being the support system and backbone for the farmers and for the brands, and helping companies develop new products. I think that's probably the most exciting part of what I get to do, is talking to the R&D and product development and board members and C-suite teams of the companies that I grew up with and the brands that I grew up with, and seeing talking to them about the different delivery systems and the different ingredients to incorporate in their products, and what their thoughts are and how they're going to bring it to market. And it's just really, I never imagined that the industry would get to this point this quickly. And seeing how how much rocket fuel has been dumped on it over the last couple of years, I can't imagine we'll be at next year or 4 years from now. So really, really excited and very optimistic about what we're doing and how the world's accepting it.
Very cool, man. Well, this show will always be a stop for you to share your knowledge with us and everything else. And we invite you down to C-Lab events when we're able to have them again. And I know Exactus is actually based about 15 minutes east of my house here in Delray Beach, but you're still LA based, right?
Yeah. But I'll be out there next week. I'd love to connect in person. I'm over. Yeah. I mean, we're in Delray. So yeah.
Hell yeah, man. So I want to meet up with you, and we're going to go take a walk and talk about this more. We can go take a walk down to my favorite breakfast place, Two Fat Cookies. It's a nice little window right off Atlantic Avenue. It's some of the best breakfast food that I've had. So I want to share that with you because you're in my hometown here, and really excited, man. We're really excited to watch your journey. We really appreciate you doing the show.
Thank you. I'm excited for Two Fat Cookies.
Oh, probably one of the top 5 breakfasts I've ever had. Their breakfast burrito. It's called a burrito, even though it's a breakfast burrito. Yeah. Unreal. I don't know the guy who runs it. I forget his name, but I'm going to shout him out on another show. Two Fat Cookies. If you're in the Palm Beach County area, go check them out for breakfast. It's Two Fat Breakfast. Listen, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but it's awesome. So, Derek, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it, man.
Have a good one.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you everybody at home for watching. Listen, I know that my brain's hurting from everything that I learned today. I hope you guys learned a whole lot more, because this is the part of the industry that gets really exciting. I hope it excites everybody else. And check us out tomorrow. Our diversity panel with Roz starting at 4:20 p.m. Join CLab.com. Use the code CLAB100. And we'll be live right after that panel at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow with Halston Puchek from the Hoban Law Group. That's our last show for the week. And then we'll be back again next week. So everybody, this has been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We're out.